students, welcome back. Today our topic is how materials change their shape on cooling. So we have revised these topics in our earlier lessons, states of matter and how materials change their shape on heating. So they form a foundation for this new upcoming lesson. If you are not familiar with those topics, I would highly recommend you just have a quick view of these topics before you go to the new lesson. Okay, so now we are going to our new um, topic, okay, how materials change their shape on cooling. So, cooling materials. In this lesson, we are going to see how the materials changes from liquids to solids on cooling, how their shape changes uh, when they are taken to freezing point or when they are cool. Okay, now let's have a look at this. What makes materials change state? Like whatever the state is, like take for example liquid, they change to solid. What makes them to change their state? So materials can be in three different states: solid, liquid, or gas. But how do materials change the state? Okay, let's have a look at this diagram. If you have a look at this diagram, you can see that here the solid is changed to liquid state. Okay, so how this happened and when this happened, we are going to have a short look at it. So solid when you're keeping these ice cubes at room temperature, or if you're going to put this on a hot pan, and naturally the melting will start. So when it starts melting, it changes to liquid. And this liquid, when you are going to freeze it, put it in the refrigerator, put it in the ice cubes, or put the water in the ice cubes and place it in refrigerator, what you will get? Lovely. You will get solid again. Okay? You will the water will be transformed to ice cubes. That is, the liquid is changing to solid. So on melting, the solid changes to liquid, and on freezing, the liquid changes to solid. Okay? We have already learned about this in our earlier videos, that how the atoms or the molecules, how they are like arranged in liquids and solids. Like if you see in liquids, they are a bit loose and a bit apart. Okay, they are not so rigid. But have a look at this solids. They are very closely and tightly packed, and they are very rigid. That's the reason solid stays in one place, whereas the liquid it flows. Okay, so if I go to my earlier slide, if you can see in solids, it's very tightly packed, and here in liquids, okay, they are a bit far apart. That's why the liquid flows. So what happens when you are melting the solids? Its formation becomes a little apart, and in liquid it becomes loose. Okay, now let's have a look at this. How are materials changed by cooling? The materials, like, well, we in this topic we are going to learn about two important things which I want you to remember, these vocabularies, that is freezing and the freezing point. Don't get confused between these two terms. Okay, what is freezing? When a liquid turns into a solid is called freezing. you see the water and it's changing to the ice cubes is freezing. Okay, any liquid forming a solid is freezing. Okay, the temperature at which a liquid starts to freeze into a solid is called the freezing point. Means this is the point like when actually the water will start forming ice. Okay, like for example, if you put it in the refrigerator, if you keep the degrees to 0 degrees Celsius, then you can see the water will start forming to ice. So the point when the water starts changing from the liquid to the solid is called the freezing point. Okay, so I hope you're clear with these two terms. When a liquid turns into solid, it's called freezing. Let's again repeat this. When a liquid turns into solid is called freezing. And the temperature at which, means the point at which the liquid starts turning to solid is called the freezing point. Again, I repeat, the temperature or the point at which the liquid starts turning to solid, then it is called the freezing point. Okay? Now, what is freezing point? What you know about freezing point? Yes, I just said, even you can see in your refrigerators, there is some markings in the freezer like 0, -1, -2. Okay, you can -3, -4. Means it shows you are making the refrigerator more cooler. Okay, so you can see at 0 degree, so that is actually the degrees. Okay, if you don't have a thermometer in your home at the moment to find out what is degrees, you can even see this in your refrigerator. So water freezes to ice when it is cooled to a temperature of 0 degrees Celsius. In the if you're going to put the water in the refrigerator, okay, so at 0 degree, if you're just going to place it, it will start forming ice. But if you bring these ice cubes and keep at room temperature at 0 degrees, it will start melting back to water. It will start melting. So the point at which it starts melting is 0 degrees Celsius, and that's called the melting point. The point when you place the water in the fridge at 0 degree, it will start freezing. So that point is called the freezing point. Means it starts to form ice. So that's called the freezing point. Okay, so you should know what is the freezing point and the melting point. Okay, for most materials, their melting and freezing points are the same. Like for example, if you take water, okay, if you take water, the melting point and the freezing point of water is the same. It's 0 degree Celsius. So for most of the liquids, you will see when the melting and the freezing point are the same, when the substance is very pure, then you have the same freezing point and the melting point. Okay, so again I repeat, water freezes to ice when it is cooled to a temperature of 0 degrees. Note that different liquids have different freezing points. For most materials, their melting and the freezing points are the same as for water, I told you. So I again repeat it, like when you're going to put the water in the fridge, the point at which it starts forming ice is called the freezing point. And now you're bringing this ice cube out and just place at the room temperature at 0 degrees Celsius. So it starts melting. So the point at which it starts melting is the melting point. And for water and ice, both the melting and the freezing point is 0 degree. Okay, now let's go to this. As I told you, when you're putting this water in the refrigerator, it freezes. Not only water, if you put the liquid chocolate, it will freeze back to the solid chocolate. Yeah. So, children, if you have understood this lesson, I want you to go back and do this task. Okay, and try to fill up the blanks. And also, I want you to make sure, like, do the simple experiment. Okay, just try to make ice cubes how you um, freeze the liquid to solid. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and thanks for being with me. Have a good day. See you. Bye.